Place a map of the world before you and mark the massive Pyramids of Giza. Surprisingly, their locations seem far too precise to be mere coincidence. Stones perfectly aligned with the Orion constellation, and astonishing geometric similarities with other ancient structures thousands of miles away. While some claim they were just tombs or monuments, theorists suggest the pyramids might be part of a hidden map, a map that could channel the Earth's energy, preserve lost knowledge, or connect the heavens with the planet. In this video, we'll explore the theories, claims, and conspiracies surrounding this secret map. Get ready. What you're about to see may challenge everything you think you know about history.
Spread a world map across your table. Take a marker and place a dot at Giza, Egypt, where the Great Pyramid stands. Now mark Teotihuacan in Mexico. Add the pyramids of Xi'an in China. Include the stepped structures of Sudan. Mark the ancient mounds of North America, the temples of Cambodia, the megalithic sites of Peru. Step back. Look at what you've drawn. Do you see it? The pattern that emerges when you connect these dots isn't random. It's too precise, too geometric, too deliberate to be dismissed as the scattered achievements of isolated civilizations who supposedly never communicated. These ancient structures, built thousands of miles apart across oceans and continents, separated by cultures that had no known contact, align in ways that suggest something profound, something we've been taught to ignore. A hidden map, perhaps, encoded in stone across the face of our planet? The Great Pyramid of Giza sits at 29.9792 degrees north latitude. This number should sound familiar. It matches the speed of light in meters per second. 299,792,458. Coincidence? Perhaps. But when one coincidence follows another, when patterns repeat across continents and millennia, coincidence becomes insufficient as an explanation. The pyramid's location isn't just mathematically curious. It sits at a point that some researchers claim represents the geographical center of Earth's landmass. Calculate the center of all continental masses, and you arrive remarkably close to the Giza Plateau. Was this known to the ancient builders? Did they possess maps and measurements we believe impossible for their time? Modern satellites and GPS technology allow us to determine Earth's geographical features with precision. But the builders of Giza had no such tools. Or did they? How else could they have chosen this exact location unless they possessed knowledge of Earth's complete geography? Knowledge that supposedly wouldn't exist for thousands of years. The precision doesn't stop at latitude. The pyramid's internal chambers and passages align with celestial bodies with accuracy that requires astronomical knowledge far beyond simple observation. The southern shaft from the king's chamber points directly at Orion's belt as it appeared in 2450 BCE. Not approximately, precisely, as if the entire structure was designed as a three-dimensional star map frozen in stone. But Giza isn't alone in this cosmic alignment. Travel west across the Atlantic to Teotihuacan, Mexico. The Avenue of the Dead, the main thoroughfare of this ancient city, aligns 15.5 degrees east of true north. This specific angle points to the setting position of the Pleiades star cluster, the same constellation that held significance in Egyptian, Sumerian, and numerous other ancient cultures. The Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan measures 225 meters at its base. The Great Pyramid of Giza measures 230 meters. The difference is just 2%. Two civilizations separated by an ocean, supposedly with no contact, building pyramids of nearly identical dimensions, and both encoding the same mathematical constants in their slopes, both aligning with celestial patterns, both situated at locations that seem chosen with knowledge of a global design. Journey east to China. The Pyramids of Xi'an, long dismissed as natural hills until satellite imagery revealed their artificial nature, number in the dozens. Some rival Giza in size. Their orientations align with cardinal directions. Their placements correspond to star patterns visible from their latitude. The Chinese government restricts access, plants trees over them, and insists they're merely burial mounds. But their geometry tells a different story. Cross to Africa's interior. The Nubian Pyramids of Sudan, over 200 structures built by the Kingdom of Kush, mirror Egyptian architectural principles, but predate many Egyptian pyramids. Their locations along the Nile follow a pattern that some researchers suggest maps underground water sources, creating a geographical guide that served practical purposes while encoding astronomical knowledge. Travel to Southeast Asia. Angkor Wat in Cambodia, the largest religious structure ever built, mirrors the constellation Draco in its layout. The distances between its major structures correspond to the distances between stars in that constellation, creating a terrestrial map of the heavens. The temple's orientation aligns with the spring equinox, requiring precise astronomical calculations that shouldn't exist in the historical record of its builders. Each of these sites, examined individually, presents mysteries. But when viewed together, they suggest something more profound. A global network, a coordinated design, a map written in stone across the planet's surface, created by civilizations we're told had no contact, no shared knowledge, no means of coordination. What kind of map requires such scale? What information demands encoding in structures that will outlast civilizations? And who possessed the knowledge to create it? The traditional explanation points to independent development, similar human needs producing similar solutions across cultures. But this explanation struggles against the precision of the alignments, the consistency of the mathematical constants, the repetition of astronomical patterns across continents and millennia.
Independent development suggests variety, experimentation, gradual refinement. What we observe instead is sudden sophistication, structures appearing fully formed with precision that later buildings fail to match, as if the knowledge was imported, not developed, as if someone provided the blueprints. Consider what such a map would require. First, accurate knowledge of Earth's complete geography, the locations of continents, the positions of land masses, the shape of the planet itself. Without this, choosing optimal sites would be impossible. Yet we credit ancient cultures with geographical knowledge limited to their immediate regions. Second, advanced astronomical understanding. Not just tracking the sun and moon for calendars, but calculating the positions of stars across millennia, accounting for precession, understanding that Earth's axis wobbles over a 25,920-year cycle. This level of sophistication supposedly didn't exist until modern times. Third, mathematical expertise. The ability to encode constants like pi and phi into architecture, to calculate ratios that work across scales, to design structures that preserve information through the language of geometry, independent of spoken language or written text. Fourth, organizational capability. Coordinating construction across continents would require communication, planning, and resources that challenge our understanding of ancient societies. Unless the coordination happened differently, unless the map was laid out in a distant past, before the civilizations we know emerged, and those later cultures inherited only fragments of the design. The concept of a hidden map encoded in ancient structures isn't new. Indigenous cultures worldwide preserve legends of sacred geometry, sites chosen by ancestors for their connection to cosmic forces. Aboriginal Australians speak of song lines, paths across the landscape that map both geographical features and spiritual knowledge. Native American traditions describe power points, locations where Earth's energy concentrates.
These traditions suggest ancient understanding of the planet as an interconnected system, a living network where certain locations hold special significance. What we dismiss as superstition might preserve knowledge of a map that operates on principles we've forgotten or never fully understood. Some researchers propose that this map represents ley lines, hypothetical alignments connecting ancient sites that form a global energy grid. Others suggest the sites mark underground water sources, creating a practical guide to survival that was dressed in religious significance to ensure its preservation. Still others point to the possibility of a lost civilization, advanced beyond our assumptions, that created the map before disappearing into the mists of prehistory. What unites these theories is recognition that the patterns exist, the alignments are measurable, the mathematical constants are real, the astronomical correspondences are verifiable. Whatever the purpose, whatever the builders intended, they left something that transcends the simple tombs and temples of conventional history. The locations whisper of knowledge we're told shouldn't exist. Knowledge of Earth's shape before it was supposedly known. Understanding of stellar mechanics before the telescope. Mastery of mathematics before formal systems were developed. Either our timeline of human progress is wrong, or something else guided the placement of these monuments. As you look at that map again, at the dots you've marked across continents, ask yourself, what are the odds? What mathematical probability allows for pyramids in Egypt and Mexico to share dimensions within 2%? For structures separated by oceans to align with the same constellations? For ancient sites worldwide to encode the same mathematical constants? The odds are vanishingly small, so small that accepting coincidence requires more faith than considering alternatives. Perhaps the pyramids, the temples, the ancient monuments scattered across our world aren't isolated achievements. Perhaps they're nodes in a network, markers on a map, messages left by someone who understood our planet as a whole, who viewed it from a perspective we're only beginning to reclaim. The map exists. Whether drawn in stone or energy, in geometry or astronomy, it stretches across our world, waiting to be read. The question isn't whether it's there. The evidence proves it is. The question is, who created it? What does it mark? And why have we been taught to see only tombs and temples when the stones themselves whisper of something far more vast? Perhaps the hidden map was never meant to be hidden at all. Perhaps we simply forgot how to read it, forgot the language of position and alignment, forgot that our ancestors, far from primitive, possessed understanding that we're only now, with our satellites and computers, beginning to rediscover. The map waits, patient, silent, encoded in the positions of structures that have outlasted empires. And as you trace your finger across those marked locations, you might wonder, what truth connects them? What knowledge did they preserve? And what will we find when we finally learn to read the message written across the face of our world?
Numbers don't lie. Coordinates are absolutes, fixed points on a sphere spinning through space. When ancient structures occupy positions that encode mathematical constants, when their latitudes and longitudes align with precision that modern surveyors struggle to achieve, we must ask, how did the builders know exactly where to place them? The Great Pyramid of Giza sits at 29.9792 degrees north latitude. This number, as we've noted, mirrors the speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second. But this is merely the most famous example of a pattern that repeats across the ancient world, a pattern suggesting that whoever designed these monuments possessed geographical and mathematical knowledge that shouldn't exist in the timeline we've been taught. Let's begin with the foundation, the geographical center of Earth's landmasses. Calculate the geometric mean of all continental surfaces, accounting for their irregular shapes and distributions, and you arrive at a point remarkably close to the Giza Plateau.
The pyramid doesn't just occupy any location in Egypt, it stands at the nexus, the balance point where Earth's land converges mathematically. This calculation requires knowledge of all continents: Africa, Europe, Asia, the Americas, even Antarctica. The ancients would need accurate maps showing the true shapes and sizes of land masses separated by vast oceans. We credit such maps to the age of exploration, to European navigators of the 15th and 16th centuries. Yet here stands a monument from 2500 BCE, positioned as if its builders viewed Earth from above, seeing the whole planet at once. The precision extends beyond mere placement. The Great Pyramid's longitude, when combined with its latitude, creates coordinates that some researchers claim define Earth's dimensional properties. Multiply certain measurements of the pyramid by specific constants, and you approximate the planet's polar radius. Scale other dimensions, and you approach the equatorial circumference. The structure itself becomes a three-dimensional equation, a stone calculator encoding planetary data. But Giza isn't the only site displaying such mathematical precision. Travel to Teotihuacan in Mexico, positioned at 19.5 degrees north latitude. This number appears repeatedly in ancient architecture worldwide. Multiply 19.5 by pi, and you get approximately 61.2, close to the angle of the Pyramid of the Sun's slope. The same latitude also corresponds to significant geological features: the Great Red Spot on Jupiter, the Shields volcanoes of Hawaii, and other planetary hotspots sit at or near 19.5 degrees in their respective coordinate systems. Why would ancient builders choose this specific latitude? Some theorists propose it represents a planetary resonance point, a location where Earth's rotational dynamics create unique energetic properties. Others suggest it's purely mathematical, a number chosen for its geometric relationships. Either way, the repetition across cultures separated by oceans strains coincidence. Move to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, located at 13.4 degrees north latitude and 103.8 degrees east longitude. These coordinates might seem arbitrary until you examine the structure's internal geometry. The temple's layout, when measured precisely, reveals that distances between major features correspond to astronomical distances in our solar system when scaled by specific factors. The coordinates themselves may encode information about Earth's position relative to cosmic neighbors. The Nazca lines in Peru present another coordinate mystery. These massive geoglyphs, some stretching for kilometers across the desert floor, are positioned at 14.7 degrees south latitude. The lines create geometric patterns and figures visible only from significant altitude, requiring aerial perspective impossible in ancient times. Yet their precision is undeniable. Some lines run perfectly straight for miles, maintaining accuracy within fractions of a degree despite the irregular terrain they cross. How do you create such straightness without modern surveying? How do you maintain precise coordinates over vast distances without GPS? The answer might lie in astronomical observation. Ancient builders could use stars as reference points, creating grids based on celestial positions. But this requires sophisticated understanding of Earth's rotation, the movement of celestial bodies, and the relationship between stellar positions and terrestrial coordinates. The mystery deepens when we examine structures built thousands of years apart, yet sharing coordinate relationships. The Great Pyramid and the Mayan Pyramid at Chichen Itza sit on opposite sides of the globe, yet their positions create a geometric relationship. Draw a line from Giza through Earth's center, and it emerges near significant Pacific sites. Draw lines connecting multiple ancient sites, and they form geometric patterns, triangles, pentagons, and more complex shapes that suggest intentional design. Some researchers propose that ancient builders used a geodetic system, a method of measuring Earth that predates our current latitude-longitude grid.
This system, they argue, was based on harmonic mathematics, dividing the planet into sections that resonate with specific frequencies or numbers. Structures were placed at nodes in this grid, creating a global network whose purpose transcended simple geography. Evidence for such a system appears in the spacing between monuments. Measure the distance from Giza to Stonehenge, approximately 3,600 kilometers, a number divisible by significant mathematical constants.
The practical implications are staggering. To create such a network requires not just knowledge of individual site locations, but understanding of how they relate to each other across the curvature of Earth. This demands spherical geometry, calculations that account for the planet's shape, and the ability to measure distances between points separated by thousands of miles. All supposedly impossible for cultures working with primitive tools and limited geographical knowledge. Yet the evidence stands in stone. The coordinates are measurable, the relationships are verifiable, and the precision exceeds what accident or approximation could produce. Either ancient cultures possessed advanced mathematical and geographical capabilities, or they received guidance from a source with such knowledge. Consider the implications if these coordinates were chosen deliberately. What criteria guided the selection? Were the sites positioned to form a geometric pattern when viewed from space? Were they placed at locations with specific geological properties, points where Earth's crust is thinner, or magnetic fields are stronger, or underground water flows more abundantly? Some theorists propose that the coordinates map underground features. Ancient builders, according to this hypothesis, possessed knowledge of aquifers, mineral deposits, or geological structures hidden beneath the surface. They positioned monuments to mark these features, creating a practical guide for future generations dressed in religious significance to ensure preservation. Others suggest the coordinates relate to astronomical phenomena. Perhaps the sites mark positions where specific celestial events, eclipses, planetary alignments, or stellar risings could be observed with optimal clarity. The monuments become observatories, their locations chosen to maximize astronomical utility while encoding the knowledge required to use them. A more provocative theory suggests the coordinates themselves are a code, a numerical message embedded in the positions of monuments worldwide. Decode the relationships between latitudes and longitudes, and you might extract information about Earth's properties, cosmic constants, or even the identity of the map's creators. This idea treats the entire planet as a medium for message transmission, with structures serving as permanent markers readable by any civilization advanced enough to measure them accurately. The precision of ancient coordinates also raises questions about the tools available to their creators. Modern surveyors use theodolites, GPS, and satellite imagery to establish exact positions. Ancient cultures, we're told, had only basic instruments, plumb bobs, water levels, and astronomical observations, yet they achieved accuracy that rivals our modern capabilities. The Great Pyramid's alignment to true north, accurate within 0.05 degrees, requires determining Earth's axis of rotation with precision that suggests advanced instruments or techniques we haven't discovered in the archaeological record. The level base, flat to within 2.1 centimeters across 230 meters, demands surveying methods that can detect minute variations in elevation over vast areas. Perhaps ancient builders used the stars more effectively than we imagine. By observing stellar positions over extended periods, tracking their movements with careful records, they might have developed astronomical techniques allowing precise terrestrial positioning. But this requires generations of systematic observation, record-keeping that survives political upheavals, and mathematical frameworks to process the data. Or perhaps they had help.
Perhaps the coordinates were provided by a source with global perspective, someone who could see Earth whole and mark optimal positions for structures whose purpose transcended the needs of individual cultures. This returns us to recurring questions. Was there a lost civilization with advanced knowledge? Were ancient humans guided by visitors from beyond Earth? Or have we simply failed to recognize the full sophistication of our ancestors? The coordinates tell a story of precision, of knowledge encoded in position, of monuments placed with intention that requires understanding we credit only to modern times. Whether this knowledge was developed independently, inherited from a forgotten past, or provided by an external source, its existence challenges the comfortable narrative of steady human progress from primitive to advanced. As you contemplate these ancient coordinates, these precise positions scattered across our world, consider what they represent. Not just geographical points, but data points in a larger equation. Each monument marks a position chosen with care. Each location encodes information. Each coordinate contributes to a pattern we're only beginning to perceive. The map exists in the numbers, in the latitudes that match cosmic constants, in the longitudes that form geometric relationships, in the distances that create harmonic ratios, and in the precision that exceeds coincidence, suggesting purpose, planning, and knowledge that our history books haven't accounted for. The ancient coordinates remain, fixed in stone, waiting for us to understand not just where the monuments stand, but why they stand there. What guided their placement? What knowledge determined their positions? And what message might we find if we finally learn to read the mathematical language written in their geographical coordinates?
Look up at the night sky. The stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance, patterns that have guided travelers, marked seasons, and inspired wonder since humans first gazed upward. But what if the ancients saw more than poetry in those lights? What if they read the stars as a map and built monuments on Earth to mirror what they saw in the heavens? The Great Pyramid of Giza doesn't just sit on Earth. It points to the cosmos with precision that suggests the structure was designed as a bridge between ground and sky. The southern shaft, extending from the king's chamber, aims at a specific point in the heavens, Orion's belt, as it appeared around 2450 BCE. Not the general direction, not approximately. The shaft maintains an angle of 45 degrees through dozens of meters of solid stone, targeting Alnitak, the brightest star in that famous constellation, with accuracy that requires advanced astronomical knowledge. This alignment isn't coincidental. The angle never wavers. The shaft cuts through the pyramid's mass in a perfectly straight line, as if the builders used the star itself as a guide, drilling toward a point of light millions of miles away. Creating such precision demands understanding of stellar positions, Earth's rotation, and the relationship between terrestrial structures and celestial coordinates. Yet we credit the ancient Egyptians with only basic astronomical knowledge, observations sufficient for agricultural calendars, but nothing approaching the sophistication this alignment requires. The northern shaft presents an equally impossible alignment. It points to Thuban, the star that served as the pole star in ancient times due to Earth's precession, the slow wobble of our planet's axis over 25,920 years. The shaft's angle accounts for this precession, targeting the star's position in the specific era of the pyramid's supposed construction. This requires understanding that Earth's axis isn't fixed, that pole stars change over millennia, and that astronomical alignments must account for this drift. How did builders in 2500 BCE know about precession? This phenomenon wasn't officially discovered until Greek astronomer Hipparchus described it around 130 BCE, over 2,000 years later.
The cycle takes nearly 26,000 years to complete. Observing it requires records spanning multiple generations, mathematical models to calculate the rate of change, and instruments capable of measuring tiny shifts in stellar positions. Yet the pyramid shafts account for it, suggesting knowledge that shouldn't exist in the historical record. But the stellar alignments don't stop at Giza. Look to the layout of the three pyramids themselves. From above, their positions mirror the three stars of Orion's belt, Al-Natak, Al-Nilam, and Mintaka. The correlation is precise. The smallest pyramid sits slightly offset from the line connecting the other two, exactly as Mintaka appears slightly offset from its companions in the sky. The sizes of the pyramids correspond to the apparent brightness of their stellar counterparts. This correlation was first proposed by Robert Bauval in his Orion correlation theory. His observation sparked controversy precisely because it suggests intentional design on a scale that challenges our understanding of ancient capabilities. To create this mirror on Earth, builders needed complete knowledge of the constellation's pattern, the ability to translate celestial positions to terrestrial coordinates, and the organizational capability to construct three massive monuments in precise relationship to each other. The obsession with Orion isn't unique to Egypt. Travel west to Teotihuacan in Mexico, and you find similar astronomical fixation. The Avenue of the Dead, the city's main axis, aligns 15.5 degrees east of true north, pointing to the setting position of the Pleiades star cluster. When the Pleiades sets at this angle, Orion's belt rises in the east, creating a cosmic alignment that connects two constellations across the sky. The Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan features a western-facing stairway that frames the setting sun on specific dates. These dates correspond to astronomical events significant across Mesoamerican cultures: equinoxes, solstices, and the zenith passage, when the sun stands directly overhead. The pyramid becomes a solar calendar, its architecture encoding astronomical knowledge in stone that outlasts any written record. Journey to Angkor Wat in Cambodia. The temple's layout, when viewed from above, mirrors the constellation Draco as it appeared around 10,500 BCE. This date is significant, far predating the temple's accepted construction period in the 12th century CE. If the astronomical alignment is intentional, it suggests either that the site's design preserves knowledge from a much earlier era, or that the builders deliberately encoded a date from the distant past into their architecture. The temple's orientation also aligns with the spring equinox. On that day, the sun rises directly behind the central tower when viewed from the main entrance, creating a dramatic visual alignment that requires precise positioning. Achieving this demands calculating the exact point on the horizon where the sun rises on that specific day, accounting for Earth's tilt and orbital mechanics. Cross to Peru. The Nazca lines, massive geoglyphs carved into the desert floor, include geometric patterns that some researchers argue represent constellations. Certain figures, when mapped against the night sky visible from that latitude, correspond to stellar patterns. The lines themselves, running straight for kilometers, might serve as sight lines for astronomical observations, pointing toward horizon positions where celestial events occur. In Britain, Stonehenge presents perhaps the most famous astronomical alignment. The stones frame the summer solstice sunrise, channeling light through the structure on the year's longest day. But the alignments go deeper. The monument's geometry encodes lunar cycles, the 18.6-year period of the moon's orbital variation, suggesting sophisticated understanding of our satellite's complex movements. These global alignments share common features. They target significant celestial objects, bright stars, conspicuous constellations, the sun at crucial moments. They require precision that demands careful observation, mathematical calculation, and construction accuracy rarely found in structures supposedly built without advanced instruments. and they suggest a worldview where heaven and earth mirror each other, where terrestrial geography reflects cosmic patterns. What drives this obsession with stellar alignment? Some propose religious significance. Ancient cultures across the world associated stars with divine beings. Orion represented Osiris in Egyptian mythology, a god of death and rebirth. The Pleiades held significance in Greek, Mayan, and Aboriginal Australian traditions. Perhaps alignment served to connect sacred sites with cosmic forces, anchoring earthly temples to heavenly powers.
But the precision suggests more than symbolism. Religious significance doesn't require accuracy to fractions of degrees. Approximate alignments would suffice for ritual purposes. The exactness we observe implies practical application. Perhaps the monuments functioned as observatories, their alignments enabling precise astronomical measurements that served calendrical, navigational, or scientific purposes. Some researchers propose that stellar alignments encode specific dates, time capsules marking when the structures were conceived, if not necessarily built. The Orion correlation at Giza, the Draco alignment at Angkor Wat, these might indicate epochs significant to the builders, eras they wished to commemorate or connect to their constructions. Others suggest the alignments point to cosmic origins. If ancient cultures were visited by beings from beyond Earth, stellar alignments might indicate the visitor's home. Point to Orion, and perhaps you're indicating where the teachers came from. Create a terrestrial map of that constellation and you're building a sign readable from space, a marker saying, "We remember, we understand, we came from there," or "they came from there." The mathematical relationship between Earth-based structures and stellar positions also raises questions about the nature of the map these monuments encode. Perhaps it's not just a geographical map of Earth, but a cosmic map showing our planet's position relative to significant celestial features. The monuments become a three-dimensional representation of our location in the galaxy, a cosmic address left in stone. The alignment with Orion appears repeatedly across cultures. Egypt, Mexico, and some argue ancient sites in China and South America all show Orion-centric astronomy. Why this particular constellation? It's visible from most latitudes, distinctive in shape, and home to some of the brightest stars in our sky. If you wanted to create a universal reference point, one recognizable across cultures and time periods, Orion would be an excellent choice. But there is another possibility. Perhaps Orion held significance not just for its visibility, but for what it represents in cosmic geography. The constellation sits near the celestial equator, the projection of Earth's equator onto the sky. It straddles the Milky Way, our galaxy's band of light. From a navigational perspective, Orion occupies a central position in the heavens as viewed from Earth, making it an ideal reference point for cosmic positioning. The stellar alignments also demonstrate knowledge of precession, that 25,920-year cycle we mentioned. This is crucial. It means ancient builders didn't just observe stars as they appeared in their own era. They understood that stellar positions shift over time, and they built monuments accounting for this shift. Such understanding requires either centuries of continuous observation or knowledge inherited from a source with deeper temporal perspective. Consider what building to stellar alignments demands practically. You must observe the target star's position over time, determining its exact coordinates in the sky. You must calculate the angle from your construction site to that celestial point, accounting for latitude, the star's declination, and seasonal variations. You must then translate that angle into architecture, creating shafts, building orientations, or structural elements that maintain the alignment through tens or hundreds of meters of construction. This process requires instruments, not crude sighting devices, but tools capable of measuring angles with precision, tracking stellar positions over time, and verifying alignment during construction. We have no archaeological evidence of such instruments in most ancient cultures. The tools we do find, Simple plumb bobs and water levels seem inadequate for the precision achieved. Unless the knowledge came differently, unless the alignments were gifts from a source that already understood the stars, that could provide coordinates and angles without generations of laborious observation, or unless ancient cultures possessed instruments that haven't survived, technologies lost when civilizations fell, leaving only the monuments they helped create as proof they once existed. The stars don't change their basic patterns, not on human timescales. Orion looked much the same 5,000 years ago as it does today, accounting for precession. This makes stellar alignments a permanent message, readable by any future culture that looks up and recognizes the patterns. Unlike written languages that become incomprehensible when no one remembers how to read them, astronomical alignments speak to anyone who understands the sky. Perhaps that's the point. Perhaps the monuments weren't built just for their contemporary audiences, but for us, for future generations who would possess the technology to measure the alignments precisely and recognize their significance. The stellar connections become a message across time. We were here. We understood the cosmos. We marked Earth's position relative to the heavens so you would know we possessed this knowledge. As you contemplate these alignments, these bridges between Earth and sky, consider what they represent: knowledge of celestial mechanics, understanding of Earth's place in the cosmos, precision that rivals modern astronomy, and a worldview that saw connection between terrestrial geography and cosmic patterns, between the positions of monuments on our planet and the positions of stars in infinite space. The alignments exist, they're measurable, they're precise. They suggest purpose that transcends religious ritual or aesthetic choice. Whether they mark dates, indicate origins, serve as observatories, or encode information we haven't yet deciphered, they speak of knowledge that our timeline of human progress struggles to accommodate. The stars remain, wheeling overhead as they did when ancient builders first aimed their monuments toward them. And those monuments remain, their shafts and orientations still pointing toward the same celestial targets, waiting for us to understand not just where they point, but why. What message did the ancients encode in these stellar alignments? What truth connects Earth to the heavens? And what will we discover when we finally learn to read the cosmic map they left us, written in the language of stone and starlight?
Beneath the surface of our world, invisible to the eye but measurable by instruments, flows a network of forces: magnetic fields, geological faults, underground water channels. Some researchers propose that ancient builders understood these forces, mapping them across continents and positioning monuments at key points where Earth's energies concentrate or intersect. This idea, often called the ley line theory, suggests that ancient sites aren't randomly distributed, but deliberately placed along geometric alignments that tap into or mark natural energy flows. Whether you accept this as literal truth or metaphorical understanding, the patterns exist, the alignments are real, and they raise questions about what ancient cultures knew regarding the hidden forces shaping our planet. The term ley lines was coined in 1921 by Alfred Watkins, a British businessman and amateur archaeologist. While studying maps of the Hertfordshire countryside, he noticed that ancient sites, stone circles, burial mounds, and old churches aligned in straight lines across the landscape. He proposed these weren't accidents, but remnants of an ancient system of pathways or surveying lines used by prehistoric peoples. Watkins' observations sparked decades of research and speculation. Investigators found similar alignments across Britain and Europe, lines connecting Stonehenge to other megalithic sites, paths linking ancient churches built on pre-Christian sacred grounds, geometric patterns emerging when multiple sites were plotted on maps, suggesting coordinated planning spanning vast distances. Critics dismissed ley lines as products of selective perception. With enough points on a map, they argued, you can draw lines connecting any sites you choose.
The patterns might be coincidental, artifacts of how humans perceive randomness rather than evidence of actual design. But proponents pointed to specific features. Sites connected by ley lines often shared similar architecture, construction techniques, or astronomical alignments, suggesting cultural connections rather than random distribution. The concept expanded beyond Britain. Researchers identified similar alignments in China, where they're called dragon lines and have been part of Feng Shui tradition for millennia. In South America, the Nazca lines might represent a terrestrial expression of such energy pathways. In North America, native traditions speak of power spots and medicine wheels positioned at locations with special significance. But what are these lines supposedly marking? Some propose they trace underground geological features, aquifers carrying water beneath the surface, mineral deposits creating subtle magnetic variations, fault lines where tectonic plates meet, generating piezoelectric charges as rocks grind together. Ancient builders, according to this theory, possessed dowsing abilities or instruments that detected these features, positioning monuments to mark or harness them. There's precedent for this idea. Modern geologists use magnetic sensors and seismic instruments to map underground structures. Ancient cultures might have developed similar techniques through centuries of observation, noticing that certain locations felt different, that water could be found more easily, that stone behaved oddly during construction. Over time, this knowledge could be systematized into a map of Earth's geological features, with monuments serving as permanent markers. The Great Pyramid sits above an underground chamber carved into bedrock, a subterranean space that intersects with natural aquifers. Some researchers propose the pyramid functioned as a kind of water-powered generator, using the pressure and flow of underground water to create energy through piezoelectric effects in the granite stones. While speculative, this idea connects the monument's position to geological features beneath it. Teotihuacan in Mexico overlies volcanic geology. The area's stone contains high concentrations of mica, a mineral with unique electrical properties. Excavations have revealed entire chambers lined with thick sheets of mica, placed with no apparent practical purpose. The mineral isn't local. It was transported from hundreds of miles away. Why? Some suggest the builders understood mica's properties as an insulator or capacitor, using it to manipulate or contain energies generated at this geologically active site. Stonehenge stands on a chalk plateau with underground springs and channels. The stones themselves, some transported over 150 miles from Wales, are golarite, a rock with magnetic properties. Recent studies have detected unusual electromagnetic readings at the site, variations that intensify at certain times or during specific weather conditions. Whether these readings relate to ancient purposes or are merely geological curiosities remains debated. The concept of an energy grid suggests these sites aren't isolated, but interconnected, nodes in a planetary network. This idea parallels modern understanding of Earth's magnetic field, the invisible lines of force that loop from pole to pole, guiding compasses and protecting us from solar radiation. The magnetic field isn't uniform. It has anomalies, regions where the field is stronger or weaker, where compasses behave strangely. Some researchers propose that ancient monuments mark these anomalies, that builders position structures at locations where Earth's magnetic field creates unique conditions, perhaps using these variations for navigation, timekeeping, or purposes we don't yet understand. Magnetic anomalies occur where geological features concentrate iron-rich rocks, where underground magma flows closer to the surface, or where tectonic stresses alter the local field. Testing this hypothesis is challenging. Magnetic fields change over time. What existed 5,000 years ago might differ from current measurements. But preliminary studies show correlations. Many ancient sites do coincide with magnetic anomalies. Whether this is cause, effect, or coincidence remains unclear. Another proposed energy is electromagnetic radiation from Earth itself. Our planet generates extremely low-frequency radio waves, a phenomenon called Schumann resonances. These natural frequencies, around 7.83 Hz, are produced by lightning strikes in the atmosphere. Some claim these frequencies affect human consciousness, that exposure to them can induce altered states, enhance meditation, or influence perception.
Could ancient builders have discovered this? Could they have positioned monuments at locations where Schumann resonances are strongest or where the local geography amplifies them? The resonant chambers we explored earlier, the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid with its 110 Hz frequency, might interact with Earth's natural electromagnetic rhythms, creating effects we're only beginning to measure. The geometric patterns connecting ancient sites suggest another possibility, that the energy grid isn't about natural forces, but about information transfer. Perhaps the alignments create a communication network, a way to transmit knowledge across distances without written language. Sound, vibration, or electromagnetic signals could travel along these lines, carrying messages between monuments positioned as nodes in the network. This idea seems far-fetched until you consider that modern technology uses similar principles. Radio towers, cell phone networks, and fiber optic cables create global communication grids. Ancient cultures might have developed analogous systems using different technologies, ones based on natural phenomena rather than electricity and electronics. Indigenous traditions worldwide speak of Earth as a living entity with flows of vital energy. Chinese feng shui describes qi flowing along dragon lines. Hindu texts mention chakras or energy centers in the human body and corresponding power points on Earth. Aboriginal Australian songlines trace paths across the landscape that carry both geographic information and spiritual significance. These traditions might preserve knowledge of real phenomena, explained in the metaphorical language of their cultures. Some researchers connect ley lines to Earth's geometric properties. The planet isn't a perfect sphere, but a complex shape that can be approximated by geometric solids. Inscribe a dodecahedron or icosahedron over Earth's surface, and the vertices fall at locations that some claim correspond to ancient sites, magnetic anomalies, and regions of geological activity. This planetary grid theory suggests Earth's internal structure creates a natural pattern, and ancient builders recognize this pattern with their monuments. The evidence for such a grid is mixed. Some points align convincingly, others require selective data interpretation. Skeptics point out that with enough geometric manipulation, you can fit any pattern to Earth's surface. But proponents note that the alignments predict more than ancient sites. They correspond to volcanic hotspots, ocean currents, and migration patterns of animals, suggesting the grid represents something real about Earth's structure. What practical purpose could such a grid serve? Perhaps navigation. Ancient mariners might have used knowledge of these lines to traverse oceans, following paths where magnetic anomalies or astronomical alignments provided reliable references. The Polynesians, who sailed thousands of miles across the Pacific without instruments, used sophisticated understanding of waves, stars, and possibly electromagnetic sensing to navigate. Could other ancient peoples have developed similar systems? Perhaps the grid marked resources, underground water, mineral deposits, fertile soil. A civilization mapping such features would gain enormous advantages, knowing where to settle, where to dig wells, where to quarry building stone. The monuments become markers in a practical geographic information system, one encoded in stone, rather than paper or digital media. Or perhaps the purpose was psychological. Studies show that exposure to certain electromagnetic frequencies or geological formations can affect human consciousness. The ancients might have discovered this empirically, noticing that people felt different at specific locations, that meditation was easier, that visions came more readily. Temples and sacred sites could be positioned at these spots, creating spaces where altered states were more accessible. The suppression of ley line research by mainstream academia is notable. Theories about energy grids are routinely dismissed as pseudoscience, unworthy of serious investigation. But this dismissal often comes before thorough testing. The electromagnetic anomalies at ancient sites are measurable.
The geometric alignments are verifiable. Whether these phenomena relate to ancient purposes or are coincidental, they deserve scientific study. Perhaps the resistance stems from implications. If ancient cultures mapped Earth's energy systems, it suggests knowledge and capabilities that challenge accepted timelines. It implies global coordination or shared knowledge across supposedly isolated civilizations. And it raises questions about technologies that might have been lost, systems of understanding that our modern science has yet to rediscover or explain. The idea of Earth as an energetic system isn't foreign to science. Geophysics studies Earth's magnetic field, its electromagnetic properties, its gravitational variations. The planet is a dynamic system with flows of energy through its core, crust, and atmosphere. Ancient builders might have understood aspects of this system through observation and empirical testing, developing practical knowledge even if their theoretical models differed from ours. As you contemplate this invisible network, these proposed lines of force crisscrossing our world, consider what they represent. Whether literal energy flows or metaphorical connections, they speak to an understanding of Earth as an interconnected whole. The monuments aren't isolated achievements, but nodes in a system, points where geography, geology, and possibly consciousness intersect. The grid exists in the patterns, in the alignments measurable between sites separated by oceans and millennia. Whether it marks natural forces, serves practical navigation, or fulfills purposes we haven't imagined, it suggests that ancient builders saw Earth differently than we do. They perceived connections we've forgotten, relationships between position and power that our modern science instruments are only beginning to detect. The energy grid, if it exists, isn't merely historical curiosity. It's a map of Earth's hidden properties, a guide to the forces that shape our world beneath its visible surface. And if we learn to read this map, to understand what the ancients marked and why, we might discover knowledge about our planet that modern science has overlooked, principles encoded in stone, waiting for us to recognize their significance.
Draw lines across a world map. Connect the Great Pyramid of Giza to Nazca in Peru. Extend from Stonehenge to the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio. Link Angkor Wat to Easter Island. What emerges isn't chaos, but geometry. Triangles, pentagons, and more complex shapes form patterns that suggest these ancient sites weren't built in isolation, but as components of a global design. The mathematical relationships between monuments separated by oceans challenge everything we believe about ancient cultures operating independently. Either they possessed knowledge of Earth's complete geography and coordinated their construction across continents, or they inherited a master plan from a source with such capabilities. Either possibility rewrites history. Begin with the most striking example, the relationship between Giza, Nazca, and Angkor Wat. These three sites, when connected on a globe, form a nearly perfect equilateral triangle. The distances between them differ by less than 1%. Place Giza at the apex, and the base connecting Nazca to Angkor Wat runs almost parallel to the equator, creating geometric precision across a planetary scale. Calculate the odds of this occurring randomly. Three civilizations, separated by thousands of miles and centuries of time, all building their most significant monuments at positions that create perfect geometric relationships. The probability approaches zero. Either the alignment is intentional, or we're witnessing a coincidence so profound it strains mathematical credibility. But the connections extend beyond simple triangles. The distance from Giza to Stonehenge is 3,600 kilometers, a number significant in ancient mathematics, being 100 times 36 and divisible by numerous sacred numbers. The distance from Stonehenge to the Great Serpent Mound in North America creates similar harmonic ratios.
Plot these distances, and patterns emerge, suggesting a numerical code embedded in the spacing. Consider the coordinates themselves. Giza sits at 30 degrees north latitude, Angkor Wat at approximately 13 degrees north, Nazca at 15 degrees south. These aren't arbitrary numbers. 30 degrees is 1/12 of Earth's circumference, a division that appears repeatedly in ancient architecture. 13 and 15 relate to astronomical cycles, the moon's phases, and planetary periods. Were these latitudes chosen specifically to encode numerical information? The longitude relationships are equally intriguing. Though longitude is conventionally measured from Greenwich, chosen arbitrarily in modern times, some researchers propose ancient cultures used different zero points. If you measure longitude from Giza as the prime meridian, treating it as the central reference, other ancient sites fall at significant angular distances: 90 degrees, 120 degrees, 144 degrees. These angles create geometric divisions of the circle that match patterns found in sacred architecture worldwide. Travel to Easter Island, one of Earth's most remote locations. Its massive moai statues face the sea, watching the horizon with stone eyes. The island's position in the Pacific seems random until you map its relationship to other ancient sites. Easter Island sits almost exactly on the opposite side of Earth from Angkor Wat, an antipodal relationship that some argue couldn't be coincidental. To position a monument at Earth's precise opposite point from another site requires knowing the planet's complete geography. The Nazca lines in Peru present another piece of the puzzle. These massive geoglyphs, visible only from altitude, include not just animal figures, but geometric patterns. Perfectly straight lines extending for kilometers, spirals, and complex shapes that from above create designs suggesting deliberate positioning. Some researchers propose the lines served as astronomical calculators or even as markers visible from space, signs meant for observers who could view Earth from above. The alignment of Nazca to other sites is remarkable. Draw a line from Nazca to Giza and it passes through or near numerous significant ancient sites. It crosses Machu Picchu, ancient settlements in Central America, and touches the edge of the Bermuda Triangle before reaching Egypt. This great circle route, the shortest path between 2 points on a sphere, seems to collect monuments along its length as if marking a planned pathway. Teotihuacan in Mexico adds another node to this network. Its position, 19.5 degrees north latitude, connects it geometrically to pyramids worldwide. The city's layout mirrors celestial patterns, but its location also creates terrestrial relationships. The distance from Teotihuacan to Giza is approximately 12,000 kilometers, a figure relating to Earth's diameter and appearing in ancient texts as a sacred measurement. The Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan measures 220 meters at its base. Giza's Great Pyramid measures 230 meters. This 2% difference appears repeatedly when comparing ancient structures. The pyramids at Teotihuacan, Giza, and China's Xi'an share proportions suggesting either direct contact between these cultures or adherence to a common blueprint. Geometry provides the language for understanding these connections. Sacred geometry, the study of mathematical relationships in nature and architecture, was central to ancient building practices. The golden ratio, phi, the ratio pi, and root rectangles based on square roots of integers appear in monuments worldwide. These aren't approximations, but precise implementations, suggesting shared mathematical knowledge or inheritance from a common source. Consider pentagonal geometry. Draw a pentagon connecting 5 ancient sites: Giza, Stonehenge, Great Zimbabwe, the Indus Valley, and Angkor Wat. The angles and proportions approximate a regular pentagon,
a shape encoding phi in its proportions. The likelihood of 5 randomly chosen sites forming this geometry is vanishingly small. Yet the pattern exists, measurable and verifiable. Some researchers extend this analysis to propose a planetary dodecahedron, a 12-faced polyhedron inscribed over Earth. Position the vertices at key locations and they correspond to ancient sites, tectonic plate boundaries, and centers of geomagnetic anomalies. This suggests Earth's structure itself creates a natural geometric pattern, and ancient builders recognized and marked this pattern with their monuments.
The connections aren't limited to megaliths. Ancient trade routes, migration patterns, and linguistic relationships hint at contact between civilizations we're taught were isolated. The Olmec heads of Mexico show features some interpret as African, suggesting transatlantic contact millennia before Columbus. Cocaine and tobacco, New World plants, have been found in Egyptian mummies, implying trade networks we haven't documented. Perhaps these connections explain the geometric relationships between monuments, evidence of communication and coordination history books haven't acknowledged. Astronomical alignments create another layer of connection. We've discussed individual sites aligning with stars, but the network effect is profound. Multiple sites targeting the same constellation, Orion, visible from different latitudes, create a global map of the same celestial pattern. Future observers from any of these sites would see monuments pointing to the same stars, a shared reference system spanning continents. The timing of construction adds complexity. If we accept conventional dating, these monuments were built over thousands of years. The Pyramids of Giza around 2500 BCE, Stonehenge around 3000 BCE, Nazca Lines around 500 CE. How do structures built millennia apart show geometric relationships? Either the dates are wrong, the sites much older than supposed, or later builders inherited knowledge of earlier sites' positions and built to maintain the pattern. Some researchers propose a lost civilization, a predecessor culture with global reach that mapped Earth and began construction of key monuments before disappearing. Survivors of this civilization spread across the world carrying knowledge of the master plan. Later cultures, Egypt, Maya, builders of Stonehenge, continued the work, adding to the network without fully understanding its original purpose. This hypothesis explains the sudden appearance of sophisticated construction techniques in multiple locations without clear developmental stages. It accounts for the shared mathematical knowledge, the geometric relationships, and the astronomical alignments that appear fully formed rather than evolving gradually. The monuments become fragments of a larger whole, pieces of a puzzle created by a civilization that vanished before recorded history began. The alternative is even more provocative: extraterrestrial involvement. If beings from beyond Earth visited in ancient times, they might have provided the master plan, showing humans where to build and encoding information in the monument's positions. The geometric relationships become a message, one readable by any spacefaring civilization that discovers Earth. The network marks our planet as inhabited by intelligent beings who understood mathematical principles universal across the cosmos. Whether the connections resulted from lost human civilization, extraterrestrial guidance, or capabilities we've failed to recognize in our ancestors, they demonstrate sophistication exceeding our expectations. The geometric relationships are real. The mathematical patterns exist. The astronomical alignments are verifiable. These aren't products of imagination or selective perception, but measurable features of monuments distributed across our world. The implications challenge comfortable narratives. If ancient cultures coordinated construction globally, they possessed communication, navigation, and organizational capabilities that conventional history denies them. If they inherited a master plan, we must explain who created it
And what happened to that predecessor civilization? If they received outside guidance, we must confront the possibility that human history has been influenced by intelligences beyond our planet. Consider what creating such a network requires practically. Accurate world maps showing all continents with sufficient detail to calculate distances and angles. Understanding of spherical geometry to work with Earth's curved surface. Instruments to measure positions precisely and verify alignments across thousands of miles. Methods to preserve and transmit this knowledge across generations, ensuring later builders could add to the pattern correctly. We credit these capabilities to European explorers of the 15th and 16th centuries, to mathematicians of the Renaissance who formalized spherical trigonometry, to modern surveyors with GPS and satellites. Yet the geometric evidence suggests ancient cultures possessed equivalent knowledge millennia earlier. Either our timeline is wrong, or these capabilities existed and were lost, leaving only the monuments as proof. The geometric connections between ancient sites form a web, a network spanning our planet. Each monument is a node, a point in three-dimensional space chosen for its relationship to other points. Together, they create a structure, a global architecture that transcends individual buildings or cultures. This structure speaks a universal language, the language of mathematics and geometry, comprehensible to any civilization advanced enough to measure it. As you contemplate these global connections, these lines drawn across oceans and continents, consider what they represent. Not just impressive construction or isolated achievements, but components of a unified whole. A plan executed on a planetary scale. A design that treats Earth itself as the canvas and monuments as markers in a pattern we're only beginning to perceive. The connections exist. The geometry is real. The relationships are measurable. Whether they mark an ancient energy grid, preserve knowledge from a lost civilization, signal to cosmic observers, or serve purposes we haven't imagined, they demonstrate that our ancestors saw Earth whole. They understood global geography. They worked within a framework that spanned continents, and they left us a map written in stone and position, waiting for us to recognize that these monuments never stood alone, but always as part of something far greater than themselves.
There are questions that make institutions uncomfortable. Questions that, if answered honestly, would unravel carefully constructed narratives about human history, technological progress, and our place in the cosmic order. The geometric patterns connecting ancient monuments across the globe represent one such question, and the response from mainstream archaeology has been consistent: dismissal, denial, and in some cases, deliberate suppression of evidence. Why? What truth about this global map threatens the established order? What knowledge might be hidden within the positions of these monuments that authorities prefer remains concealed? The pattern of suppression begins with academic gatekeeping. Egyptology, archaeology, and related fields operate within rigid paradigms. The accepted timeline places advanced civilizations' emergence around 3000 BCE, beginning with Sumer and Egypt. This timeline supports a narrative of steady human progress, from primitive to sophisticated, from isolated tribes to complex societies. Evidence suggesting earlier advanced civilizations, global coordination between supposedly isolated cultures, or knowledge exceeding what primitive tools should enable all threaten this narrative. Researchers who pursue such evidence face professional consequences. Funding disappears. Publications refuse their papers. Conferences deny them speaking opportunities. The message is clear: stay within accepted boundaries or face academic exile. Consider the treatment of Robert Bauval's Orion correlation theory. When he first proposed that Giza's pyramids mirror Orion's belt, the response from mainstream Egyptology was hostile. Despite the mathematical precision of the correlation, despite the verifiable astronomical alignments, his work was dismissed as pseudo-archaeology. Critics attacked not with evidence, but with authority,
declaring the theory impossible because it challenged accepted dating and implied knowledge ancient Egyptians supposedly didn't possess. Yet Bouval's observations were correct. The pyramids do mirror Orion. The alignments are precise. The correlation exists whether academics acknowledge it or not. The dismissal wasn't about evidence, but about protecting a narrative that couldn't accommodate such sophisticated astronomical knowledge in ancient times. This pattern repeats with researchers investigating the global network. Graham Hancock, who documented geometric relationships between ancient sites, faced similar hostility. His work, though meticulously researched and mathematically sound, was labeled fringe science. Mainstream archaeologists dismissed his findings without thorough examination, relying on rhetorical dismissal rather than engaging with the evidence. The suppression isn't limited to academic circles. Access to ancient sites is tightly controlled by governments and international organizations. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities restricts excavations, denies permits to independent researchers, and keeps significant discoveries from public view. When ground-penetrating radar revealed chambers beneath Giza's monuments, further investigation was blocked. When robots found sealed doors in the Great Pyramid shafts, exploration stopped. The pattern suggests authorities know what lies hidden and prefer it stays that way. Why the secrecy? Perhaps because the full truth about the global network would destabilize more than just archaeological timelines. If ancient cultures possessed advanced knowledge, if they coordinated construction across continents, if they mapped Earth's complete geography millennia before the age of exploration, then our entire understanding of human development collapses. The economic implications alone are staggering. Tourism to Egypt, Mexico, Peru, and other ancient sites generates billions in revenue. These economies depend on narratives that credit local civilizations with building the monuments. Revelations that the structures are far older, built by a lost global civilization, or constructed with extraterrestrial guidance could disrupt these carefully marketed stories. Better to maintain comfortable lies than risk economic chaos from inconvenient truths. Religious and cultural implications run deeper. Many nations build identity around ancient achievements. Egypt's modern state draws legitimacy from pharaonic heritage. Mexico celebrates Aztec and Mayan ancestry. China points to ancient dynasties. If these monuments predate or transcend these cultures, if they belong to a predecessor civilization that was truly global, the national narratives built on ancient glory collapse. Cultural identities rooted in historical achievements face existential challenges. The suppression also involves destruction of evidence. Ancient texts that might illuminate the network's purpose have been lost or destroyed. The Library of Alexandria burned, taking countless scrolls describing ancient knowledge. Mayan codices were systematically destroyed by Spanish conquistadors. Chinese emperors ordered book burnings. Each loss erased potential evidence of the global civilization that might have created the network. Some losses seem suspicious in their timing. Documents surfacing that challenge mainstream narratives have a tendency to disappear before thorough study. The Coptic scroll describing monuments before language vanished in a convenient fire. Maps showing Antarctica ice-free, like the Piri Reis map, based on ancient sources, are dismissed as forgeries despite no conclusive evidence of fraud. The pattern suggests active efforts to prevent certain knowledge from reaching public awareness. Modern technology should make suppression harder. Satellite imagery reveals sites previously hidden. Ground-penetrating radar detects subterranean structures. Digital archives preserve information that physical documents could lose. Yet access to this technology for investigating ancient sites is restricted. Satellite data for certain areas is classified or low resolution. Radar surveys require government permission, rarely granted to independent researchers. Digital archives are controlled by institutions that decide what gets preserved and what gets forgotten. The internet has democratized information sharing, allowing researchers outside traditional academia to present findings directly to the public. This explains the aggressive response to alternative archaeology online.
Mainstream media labels it pseudoscience. Wikipedia systematically discredits researchers questioning conventional timelines. Social media platforms algorithmically suppress content challenging historical narratives. The tools of information control have adapted to new media, but the goal remains: keep uncomfortable questions from gaining traction. Why such effort to suppress? Because the global network, if fully acknowledged and understood, leads to questions with no comfortable answers. If monuments worldwide were positioned according to a master plan, who created that plan? When? With what knowledge of Earth's geography? Using what instruments to measure and coordinate across such distances? The conventional answers, independent development by isolated cultures, coincidental similarities, primitive methods we underestimate, all collapse under mathematical scrutiny. The precision is too exact, the patterns too consistent, the relationships too complex to result from accident or limited capabilities. Alternative explanations are more troubling. A lost advanced civilization, perhaps Atlantis or another name, that mapped Earth before known history. This implies cycles of rise and fall, that our current civilization isn't unprecedented, but merely the latest in a series. We might not be climbing toward an unreached peak, but recovering ground previously held and lost. Or extraterrestrial involvement, beings from beyond Earth providing knowledge, guidance, or direct assistance in creating the network. This challenges human centrality, suggests we're not alone, implies our greatest ancient achievements might not be entirely our own. For institutions built on human exceptionalism, for religions placing humanity at creation's center, such revelations are existential threats. Or knowledge that ancient humans possessed capabilities we've lost, technologies that didn't survive, understanding that wasn't preserved, abilities that seem impossible by our standards but were reality for our ancestors. This challenges the narrative of progress, suggests we might be less advanced in some ways than those who came before, forces uncomfortable questions about what else we might have forgotten. Any of these answers disrupts comfortable worldviews, so the questions themselves are suppressed. Evidence is dismissed. Researches are marginalized. Information is controlled. Not through overt conspiracy requiring coordination among thousands, but through institutional inertia, career incentives, economic interests, and genuine belief among gatekeepers that protecting established narratives serves the greater good. Yet suppression never works completely. Evidence persists. The monuments stand. The geometric relationships remain measurable. Researchers continue investigating despite professional costs. And public interest grows precisely because the suppression signals something worth hiding. The internet age makes total control impossible. Alternative theories spread despite mainstream dismissal. Evidence surfaces that institutions can't completely bury. The global network of ancient monuments parallels a modern global network of information, allowing knowledge to flow around gatekeepers and reach audiences directly. This creates tension. Authorities recognize they're losing control of the narrative, hence the increasingly aggressive labeling of alternative archaeology as dangerous misinformation. The rhetoric has escalated from dismissive to hostile, suggesting desperation as the old gatekeeping mechanisms fail. What knowledge specifically is being concealed? Perhaps the monuments encode information more valuable than their positions alone suggest. Mathematical constants preserved in their dimensions, astronomical data in their alignments, geological information about Earth's structure, or historical records, not in writing, but in the universal language of geometry and proportion, telling the story of who built them, when, and why. Perhaps the network itself, when fully mapped and understood, reveals something profound about Earth, a pattern that explains geological features, magnetic anomalies, or energetic properties we haven't recognized. The positions might predict seismic activity, mark underground resources, or indicate something about our planet's role in larger cosmic patterns. Or perhaps the concealed knowledge is spiritual, touching on questions of consciousness,
human origins, and our connection to cosmic intelligence. Ancient traditions worldwide speak of sacred sites as portals, places where the veil between physical and spiritual realms grows thin. If the global network marks such locations, acknowledging it validates worldviews that materialist science has worked to marginalize. The suppression itself provides clues. What gets most aggressively denied likely comes closest to truth. The geometric relationships between monuments, the astronomical sophistication of ancient cultures, the evidence of lost civilizations predating known history. These topics generate the strongest institutional resistance, suggesting the approach knowledge someone prefers remains hidden. As you contemplate this suppression, this deliberate concealment of evidence and marginalization of researchers, consider what it reveals. Truth doesn't require protection. It withstands scrutiny. Lies need gatekeepers, authorities who decide what can be questioned and what must be accepted on faith. The very existence of such aggressive suppression suggests the hidden map of ancient monuments points toward truths powerful enough to threaten the foundations of our understanding. The knowledge remains concealed, not because it doesn't exist, but because acknowledging it would change everything. Our history, our capabilities, our place in the cosmos, all would require reevaluation. And those who benefit from current narratives, economically, politically, or ideologically, prefer the concealment continue. But knowledge, like water, finds a way. The monuments stand. The evidence accumulates. And more people every day look at the patterns, measure the relationships, and ask the questions that authorities insist shouldn't be asked. The concealment is failing. The hidden map is being revealed. And the knowledge it preserves, whatever that knowledge ultimately proves to be, is emerging from shadow into light, whether institutions are ready or not.
Science demands skepticism. It requires evidence, reproducible results, peer review, and a willingness to discard theories that don't withstand scrutiny. These principles have driven human progress, revealing truths about our universe that superstition and speculation never could. So when mainstream science dismisses the hidden map theory, when archaeologists reject geometric connections between ancient monuments as coincidence or pattern-seeking, we must listen to their objections. But we must also question whether their dismissals address the evidence or merely protect comfortable paradigms, whether their skepticism serves truth or preserves professional territory. The tension between scientific orthodoxy and mysterious evidence creates a space where both sides make valid points, yet neither fully satisfies the questions these ancient monuments raise. The scientific critique begins with statistics. Given enough points on a map, mathematicians argue, you can draw lines connecting any selection you choose. The human brain excels at finding patterns, even in random data. We see faces in clouds, animals in constellations, meaning in coincidences. Perhaps the geometric relationships between ancient sites are artifacts of selective perception rather than evidence of deliberate design. This objection has merit. Pareidolia, the tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in random stimuli, is well documented, and confirmation bias leads researchers to emphasize evidence supporting their theories while ignoring contradictions. A proper scientific approach requires establishing criteria before analyzing data, not picturing alignments after examining all possibilities. But does this critique fully explain the patterns we observe? The Great Pyramid's position at 29.9792 degrees north, matching the speed of light's first digits, might be coincidence if it stood alone. But combined with the structure's other mathematical properties, its astronomical alignments, its encoding of Earth's dimensions, the coincidences accumulate beyond statistical comfort. At what point does dismissing evidence as coincidence require more faith than accepting design? Mainstream archaeology offers alternative explanations. Ancient cultures, they argue, independently developed similar architectural solutions because human needs are universal. Pyramids appear worldwide not from coordination, but because they're stable structures easily built with primitive technology. The mathematical constants encoded in their dimensions result from aesthetic choices or practical construction methods, not sophisticated knowledge. This explanation accounts for broad similarities but struggles with specific precision. Why do pyramids in Egypt and Mexico differ by only 2% in base dimensions? Why do multiple sites align with Orion despite being built by supposedly unrelated cultures? Why do the distances between monuments create harmonic ratios? Independent development suggests variety. What we observe is consistency. The conventional timeline presents another challenge. If Giza's monuments are 4,500 years old, Stonehenge 5,000 years old, and Nazca's lines only 1,500 years old, how do structures built millennia apart show geometric relationships? Mainstream archaeology answers that later builders might have known of earlier sites through trade or cultural diffusion, incorporating them into new constructions. This requires remarkable knowledge preservation. Information about Giza's exact position would need to survive thousands of years, cross oceans, and reach cultures with supposedly no direct contact. While not impossible, it suggests communication and record-keeping more sophisticated than attributed to ancient peoples. The explanation meant to support conventional views inadvertently argues for capabilities those views deny. Dating itself becomes controversial. Carbon-14 dating, the primary method for organic materials, has limitations. It can date when wood was cut or when organisms died, but not when stones were placed. If ancient builders used old timber or if later peoples added organic material to existing structures, dates become unreliable. The Great Pyramid's conventional dating rests partly on organic materials that might not reflect original construction. Geological dating of the Sphinx, based on water erosion patterns, suggests far greater age than Egyptology accepts. Geologists examining weathering patterns conclude the monument predates the arid climate, pushing construction back thousands of years. But this contradicts the accepted timeline, so mainstream archaeology dismisses geological evidence, prioritizing historical texts over physical examination of the stone itself. This reveals a deeper issue: different scientific disciplines reaching different conclusions from the same monuments. Geologists see evidence of age that archaeologists reject. Engineers identify construction precision that historians claim impossible for the supposed era. Astronomers verify alignments requiring astronomical knowledge supposedly non-existent in ancient times. Who decides which scientific discipline to trust? The answer often depends on protecting established narratives. Archaeology has invested decades in the current timeline. Academic careers, published research, and institutional authority all rest on this foundation. Evidence threatening it faces higher burden of proof than evidence supporting it. This isn't conscious conspiracy, but human nature. We resist information contradicting deeply held beliefs. Yet some scientists break ranks. Geologist Robert Schoch risked professional standing to report the Sphinx's water erosion honestly. Engineer Christopher Dunn published careful analysis showing the Great Pyramid's construction exceeds capabilities of copper tools. Astronomer Anthony Farrell verified stellar alignments requiring astronomical knowledge supposedly non-existent in ancient times. These researchers prioritized evidence over comfort, professional consequences be damned. Their work doesn't prove ancient global networks or lost civilizations, but it demonstrates that when scientists from diverse fields examine these monuments objectively, they find anomalies that conventional explanations struggle to address. The precision is real. The alignments are verifiable. The mathematical relationships exist. Dismissing them requires explaining away too much evidence.
The scientific method demands we follow evidence wherever it leads, even to uncomfortable conclusions. If data suggests ancient cultures possessed advanced knowledge, we should investigate how, not dismiss the possibility because it conflicts with accepted timelines. If geometric relationships between monuments exceed statistical probability for coincidence, we should seek explanations beyond pattern-seeking bias. But here's where the mystery persists. Even accepting that some anomalies exist, even granting ancient cultures might have been more sophisticated than we assume, we still lack comprehensive explanation for the global network. How did they coordinate? What instruments did they use? What motivated such vast undertaking? Science hasn't answered these questions because the evidence doesn't fit available theories. Perhaps ancient peoples developed capabilities we've lost, technologies that don't survive an archaeological record because they were based on materials that decompose, plant-based chemicals, organic machines, biotechnology using living organisms rather than metal and stone. Our bias toward durable artifacts might blind us to sophisticated systems that left no trace. Perhaps the accessed knowledge through means science doesn't recognize. Consciousness studies suggest human minds might perceive information beyond the five senses. If ancient cultures developed meditative or shamanic practices allowing direct apprehension of geometric relationships, of magnetic fields, of cosmic patterns, they could achieve precision without instruments. Science dismisses such ideas, but neuroscience increasingly finds that consciousness is stranger than materialist models assumed. Or perhaps the answer lies in forgotten sciences, systems of knowledge as sophisticated as ours but based on different principles. Ancient texts worldwide describe lost wisdom, capabilities that later generations couldn't replicate. These might not be myths, but records of actual knowledge systems that didn't survive societal collapse. Mathematics, astronomy, and geometry are universal. Perhaps ancient cultures developed them differently than we did, reaching similar conclusions through alternate paths. The scientific establishment's failure isn't in demanding evidence, but in refusing to seriously investigate evidence that exists. Ground-penetrating radar shows chambers beneath monuments. Mathematical analysis reveals geometric relationships. Astronomical calculations confirm alignments. Yet requests to excavate, to study, to explore are denied. How can science function when evidence is declared off-limits? This suggests the conflict isn't truly science versus mystery. It's orthodoxy versus inquiry. Established authorities protecting territory versus curious minds following questions. The scientific method supports investigation. Institutional science often opposes it when findings might disrupt accepted narratives. True skepticism cuts both ways. Question the ancient global network theory, yes, but also question why mainstream archaeology resists investigation. Question the hidden map hypothesis, certainly, but also question whether conventional explanations actually account for all evidence or merely repeat comfortable assumptions. The monuments stand as experimental subjects. They can be measured, analyzed, tested. The data they provide is objective. The geometric relationships are mathematical facts. The astronomical alignments are verifiable. What remains subjective is interpretation, whether these features resulted from coincidence, independent development, lost knowledge, or coordinated planning. Science should embrace this mystery. These monuments present puzzles that could drive advancement in archaeology, geology, astronomy, and related fields. Understanding how ancient cultures achieved such precision might reveal techniques applicable today. Discovering whether global networks existed could reshape anthropology's understanding of human social development. Instead, the response is often defensive. Protect existing theories rather than test them. Dismiss anomalies rather than investigate them. label alternative researchers as pseudoscientists rather than engage their evidence. This isn't science. This is dogma wearing science's clothing. The mystery persists not because evidence is lacking, but because investigation is prevented. Not because questions have been answered, but because asking them invites professional consequences. Not because mainstream explanations are satisfying, but because alternatives are forbidden consideration. As you contemplate this tension between scientific orthodoxy and mysterious evidence, consider what it reveals about knowledge itself. Truth doesn't require protection from questions. It welcomes scrutiny. When authorities declare certain inquiries off-limits, when evidence is suppressed rather than studied, when researchers face punishment for following data to uncomfortable conclusions, we must ask, who benefits from ignorance? What truth threatens those who prefer mystery remains mysterious? The monuments offer answers if we let them speak. The geometric patterns exist whether we acknowledge them. The astronomical alignments remain precise regardless of our theories. The mathematical relationships persist independent of our interpretations. Science should be our tool for understanding them, not our excuse for ignoring them. The conflict between science and mystery is false. True science is about exploring mystery, not explaining it away. The ancient monuments present mysteries worthy of investigation. Whether that investigation confirms or refutes the hidden mat theory matters less than whether we have courage enough to honestly pursue the questions these stones raise.
We've journeyed across continents and through millennia, tracing lines between monuments that shouldn't connect, examining coordinates that encode impossible knowledge, following alignments that point to stars our ancestors supposedly couldn't map. We've explored theories of energy grids and lost civilizations, confronted suppression and skepticism, weighed evidence against orthodoxy. And now, as our journey concludes, we return to the question that began it all. Is there a hidden map encoded in the positions of ancient monuments across our world? The evidence suggests yes. The geometric relationships are measurable. The mathematical constants are real. The astronomical alignments are verifiable. The patterns exist whether mainstream archaeology acknowledges them or not. Monuments separated by oceans and millennia share precision that strains coincidence, encode knowledge that shouldn't exist in their supposed eras, and create global patterns that suggest coordinated design. But evidence proving a pattern exists doesn't automatically reveal the pattern's purpose or creators. The map is there. What it maps, who drew it, and why remain open questions, mysteries that invite speculation but resist definitive answers. Perhaps the map is geographical, marking Earth's features with monuments positioned at significant locations. The Great Pyramid at Earth's landmass center, sites along fault lines where tectonic plates meet, structures above underground water sources or mineral deposits. Ancient cultures might have developed sophisticated understanding of geology, hydrology, and Earth's structure, encoding this knowledge in permanent markers that would outlast their civilizations. This practical explanation has merit. Knowing where water flows underground, where earthquakes are likely, where resources concentrate would provide enormous survival advantages. A civilization mapping such features through centuries of observation would want to preserve that information. Stone monuments serve as permanent records, communicating through position and geometry rather than language that might be forgotten. Perhaps the map is astronomical, a terrestrial mirror of celestial patterns, the Orion correlation at Giza, the Draco alignment at Angkor Wat, the Pleiades connection at Teotihuacan. Ancient cultures worldwide focused on the same constellations, building monuments that replicate stellar positions on Earth's surface. This creates a map of the heavens written on the ground, allowing those who understand the pattern to navigate both Earth and sky. This astronomical interpretation aligns with ancient texts describing correspondence between heavens and Earth, the Hermetic principle, as above, so below. If the map mirrors cosmic patterns, it becomes a teaching tool, a way to preserve astronomical knowledge through structures that demonstrate relationships between terrestrial geography and celestial mechanics. Future generations, even if they lost written records, could rediscover these relationships by measuring the monuments. Perhaps the map is energetic, marking points where Earth's natural forces concentrate or intersect. Magnetic anomalies, underground water flows creating piezoelectric charges, geological structures generating measurable fields. Ancient peoples might have perceived these energies through means science doesn't fully recognize, positioning monuments at locations where such forces could be accessed, amplified, or utilized. This explanation connects to indigenous traditions worldwide, describing sacred sites as places of power, where energy flows more strongly, where consciousness can access normally hidden dimensions. If the map marks such locations, it preserves knowledge of Earth as an energetic system, a living network where certain positions hold special properties detectable by those sensitive to them. Perhaps the map is historical, created by a lost civilization that predates known history. Atlantis, if you wish to use Plato's name, or another advanced culture erased by catastrophe. Survivors of this civilization, scattered across the world, carried knowledge of a master plan. They taught descendants to continue the work, building new monuments according to ancient specifications, maintaining a pattern whose original purpose was partially forgotten, but whose importance was understood. This hypothesis explains sudden appearance of sophisticated construction in multiple locations without clear developmental stages. It accounts for shared mathematical knowledge, geometric relationships, and astronomical alignments appearing fully formed, rather than evolving gradually. The monuments become fragments of a larger whole, pieces of a puzzle created before the cultures we know emerged. Perhaps the map is extraterrestrial, designed by visitors from beyond Earth who possessed knowledge of our planet's complete geography and cosmic position. The precision exceeds ancient capabilities so dramatically that some conclude human achievement alone can't explain it. The monuments might serve as markers, signals, or messages meant to be recognized by spacefaring civilizations, demonstrating that Earth harbors intelligent life capable of mathematical and astronomical understanding. This controversial interpretation challenges human centrality, but addresses the otherwise inexplicable sophistication of the global network. If beings with advanced technology provided guidance, the sudden appearance of precise construction, the shared knowledge across supposedly isolated cultures, and the encoding of cosmic constants in monument positions all become comprehensible. Or perhaps the explanation combines elements of all these theories. A lost human civilization with advanced knowledge, possibly aided by non-human intelligence, created the initial network. Survivors preserved fragments of this knowledge, continuing to add monuments according to the master plan, even as understanding of its full purpose faded. The map served multiple functions: practical geography, astronomical observation, energetic system, and historical record, all encoded in positions chosen with knowledge and tools we've lost or never recognized. What matters isn't choosing definitive explanation, but recognizing that conventional narratives fail to account for the evidence. Mainstream archaeology's insistence that ancient cultures working independently with primitive tools coincidentally built monuments sharing precise mathematical relationships across global distances requires acceptability. The alternative theories, while speculative, at least address the full scope of evidence. They attempt to explain not just individual monuments, but the patterns connecting them. They acknowledge that precision this extreme suggests purpose, that repetition this consistent implies coordination, that knowledge this sophisticated demands sources beyond our current understanding of ancient capabilities. The resistance to investigating these possibilities reveals how deeply institutional inertia, economic interests, and psychological comfort shape what we're willing to consider. Accepting the hidden map as real would require rewriting history, challenging national identities built on ancient achievements, confronting the possibility that we're not the first advanced civilization Earth has hosted, or admitting that human history might include chapters involving non-human intelligence.
These implications are profound enough to warrant serious investigation, rather than dismissive rejection. Yet investigation is systematically prevented. Sites remain unexcavated, despite evidence of hidden chambers. Researchers face professional consequences for following evidence to unconventional conclusions. Technologies that could reveal hidden structures are denied to independent investigators. The pattern of suppression suggests something worth hiding. But suppression is failing. The internet age makes total information control impossible. Evidence surfaces that institutions can't bury. Researchers share findings directly with public audiences. The geometric relationships, the mathematical constants, the astronomical alignments all become common knowledge despite academic gatekeeping. The hidden map is being revealed whether authorities approve or not. What happens when we finally acknowledge the pattern? When mainstream science admits that ancient monuments encode sophistication exceeding conventional explanations? When we seriously investigate rather than dismiss the possibility of lost civilizations, advanced ancient knowledge, or influences beyond conventional history? We might discover that human capabilities have always been greater than we assumed, that our ancestors, far from primitive, possessed understanding we've forgotten, techniques we've lost, knowledge we're only beginning to reclaim. This would humble modern arrogance while inspiring recognition of human potential. We might learn that history is cyclical rather than linear, that advanced civilizations have risen and fallen before, that we're recovering ground previously held rather than breaking new ground. This would change our perspective on progress, suggesting we should seek wisdom in the past rather than assuming the present surpasses all previous eras. We might confirm contact with non-human intelligence, whether from lost terrestrial civilizations or extraterrestrial sources. This would fundamentally alter our understanding of our place in the cosmos, our origins, and our future. It would raise questions about guidance, influence, and relationships that challenge every assumption about human history. Or we might discover explanations we haven't yet imagined, possibilities our current frameworks can't accommodate, truths that require entirely new paradigms to comprehend. The monuments might encode knowledge about consciousness, reality's nature, or cosmic relationships that our science has yet to develop language to discuss. Whatever the truth ultimately proves to be, the hidden map exists. The geometric patterns are real. The precision is measurable. The global network is there, waiting to be fully understood. The question isn't whether it exists, but what it means. As you contemplate this mystery, this pattern written across our world in monuments of stone, consider what it asks of you. Not to accept any single explanation unquestioningly, but to remain open to possibilities that conventional thinking rejects. Not to abandon skepticism, but to apply it equally to orthodox and alternative theories. Not to choose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. The monuments stand as they have for millennia, silent witnesses to knowledge we've forgotten or never fully possessed. They encode information in the universal language of mathematics and geometry, comprehensible to any civilization advanced enough to measure accurately. They connect across continents and cultures in patterns that transcend the limitations we assume ancient peoples faced. Place that map before you one final time. Mark the Pyramids of Giza, the temples of Angkor Wat, the lines of Nazca, Stonehenge, Teotihuacan, Easter Island, and dozens more. Draw lines connecting them. Measure the angles. calculate the distances, note the astronomical alignments, recognize the mathematical constants. The pattern emerges, the map reveals itself, not completely, not with all answers provided, but enough to confirm that something significant was encoded in these positions, that someone understood Earth as a whole, that knowledge was preserved in the most permanent form available. The positions of massive monuments that would outlast languages, cultures, and civilizations. The hidden map was never truly hidden. It was always there, waiting in plain sight for humanity to develop the technology and perspective to recognize it. We're beginning to see what our ancestors left us. The question is, are we ready for what it reveals? Perhaps the map doesn't just record what was known. Perhaps it points to what we need to discover. Perhaps the monuments aren't endpoints, but waypoints, markers on a journey we're still undertaking. Perhaps understanding the pattern is itself part of the pattern, a test or a trigger, something that activates when we finally achieve the perspective to comprehend it. The ancient builders, whoever they were, left us a puzzle that spans our entire world. They encoded it in positions that can't be changed or destroyed. They wrote it in the language of mathematics that doesn't require translation. They built it to last not just centuries, but geological epochs, ensuring that even if civilizations fell and rose again, the pattern would remain. Now it's visible. Now we can measure it. Now we can begin asking what it means. The hidden map exists. The question that remains isn't whether it's there, but what we'll do with the knowledge that it is. Will we investigate honestly, following evidence wherever it leads? Will we maintain comfortable denials, preferring familiar narratives to challenging truths? Will we recognize that these ancient monuments speak to us across time, offering knowledge preserved for the moment when we're finally ready to receive it? The stones stand, the patterns remain, the map waits. And the question, the profound question that these monuments pose to every generation that examines them, remains open. What truth did the ancients encode in the positions of their greatest works? What knowledge did they preserve in stone and geometry? What were they trying to tell us? The answer is there, written across our world in monuments that have outlasted empires. We need only the courage to read it, the honesty to acknowledge what it says, and the wisdom to understand what it means. The hidden map exists. The conspiracy to conceal it is crumbling, and the truth, whatever that truth ultimately proves to be, is finally emerging into light. The question remains what we will discover when we finally see the complete picture, and what that discovery will mean for everything we think we know about our past, our capabilities, and our place in a cosmos that might be far stranger and more connected than our comfortable worldviews allow. The journey doesn't end here. It begins. The map is revealed. Now comes the exploration of what it shows us, where it leads, and what truths await those brave enough to follow the paths it marks.